welcome to the farm. It's going to be an exciting day here at St. Isidore's Mead. I'm going to work with the cows a little bit, change some pasture, and then I'm going to head off to Rush River Produce in Maiden Rock, Wisconsin for some blueberries. And then it's into Eau Claire to help the children at the Montessori school do a little gardening. And then I'm going to invite them all back to the farm for some sweet treats on such a hot day. Gather with us around the farm table. I'm your host, Inga Witcher.
Gather with us around the farm table.
A few years ago, I moved up to Wisconsin. I started an organic dairy farm at St. Isidore's Mead. That's when I discovered the abundance of Midwestern local food and small-scale farmers, growing everything from green zebra tomatoes to pasture pork. I'm taking a break from the cows, hitting the road, and seeing if I can't satisfy my epicurious appetite.
That's great.
This is amazing.
Around the Farm Table is funded in part by Wisconsin Farmers Union, Heartland Credit Union, and Friends of Wisconsin Public Television.
One of my favorite places here at the farm is my garden. It's a place where I can be creative, a place where I can find calm and solitude, and a place where I grow the food that ends up on my table. I've been gardening since I was a little kid. My grandparents gardened, my parents did, and now I get to have my very own vegetable garden. One thing I've learned over the years is about companion planting. The rule of thumb with vegetables is if it goes together, it grows together. And a classic pairing is tomatoes and basil. They go together on the kitchen table and they also grow together in the garden. The basil will enhance the flavor of tomatoes, and it also releases a scent that confuses pests so they stay off the tomatoes. The other thing I like to add to my tomato garden is marigolds. Marigolds is another one of those flowers that gives off a scent that a lot of bugs don't like, so they're gonna fly off somewhere else and hopefully stay out of my garden. So not only does companion planting help by enhancing the flavors and deterring pests, but also if you have plants like beans. Beans is a legume, and what it does is it pulls nitrogen from the atmosphere and puts it in the soil. So that can help the plants that grow alongside of the beans. The possibilities are endless, and it's a fun way to experiment in your garden. Someone else who's been gardening for a long time is my friend Erin. Let's head over to the zinnias and talk to her about gardening with kids. Erin, thanks for joining me at the farm today. I'm getting ready to go and learn about school gardens, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about gardening with kids. What's your experience with that?
As the horticulture educator for Eau Claire County, we have a summer youth garden program, and we are at the North Riverfront Park Garden in cooperation with the City of Eau Claire. We have Boys and Girls Club members come there, and also the neighborhood kids can come. And we teach them how to garden, and then we use that produce to teach them how to prepare those vegetables and fruits in a nutritious meal or snack.
What a great resource for the community.
Yes, they really love that garden.
Why is it important for kids to learn about gardening?
It's important for them to know how to grow food so that if they ever want to or need to, that they don't feel they have a barrier to do that. So we like exposing them to the garden and to different ways of gardening, and also how to prepare the foods.
When did your passion for gardening start?
I have been gardening since I was just little, grade school. My father had a garden, our family had a garden, and I enjoyed going into the garden by myself. And then I got really interested in herbs, and I started growing herbs in the garden, and my father was like, "What are you growing here?"
Isn't it great to be able to kind of just experiment with different things and oh, I'm going to try this herb this year or something else. I think that's my favorite part about gardening.
Exactly, and I really encourage people to experiment with gardening and don't worry if something doesn't work out, because you've learned what works and what doesn't.
So now with kids, is there something to grow that they like more, or to encourage them to garden? Can you suggest something?
They like to have produce right away, and they like to be able to pick a lot of stuff in one session. So green beans is a good one. Carrots, they love pulling those out of the ground and seeing how long they get. Cherry tomatoes is another one. And they just love to be able to pull things from the garden and eat it right there and show people and share it with them.
Do you have any tips for parents or teachers or people who want to garden with kids on how to keep them interested in it?
Realize that their attention span in the garden may be short, especially if it's humid or buggy or really sunny. So make sure you're in the garden kind of early when it's cooler. Also, they love to water. That's one of their favorite things to do. And don't expect too much in each session, but repeated exposure, every day or once a week is really important.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Before we meet up with the kids in their garden, let's head over to Rush River Produce for some You Pick blueberries. I found a little gem out here in the river bluffs of Wisconsin. It's Rush River Produce, and they're a You Pick berry patch. They've got all kinds of things growing, but today I'm here for the blueberries. I'm planning on making the kids a blueberry and yogurt popsicle, so let's go and find John and find out a little bit more about what's happening here. Hey, John.
Good afternoon.
How's it been for blueberries this year?
An excellent year this year, good crop.
How many acres of blueberries? It feels like I'm in a huge field of blueberries here.
Well, this field here is about 4 acres, and then we have another 5 acres that we pick mostly in July. This we refer to as the August field.
All right. Now, so that means you have a couple different varieties growing?
14 different varieties.
Wow.
Some of them are earlier. 4 varieties that we have in this field. These guys are usually not blue until into the second week in August.
What makes blueberries blue?
Well, actually, first
I'm
they turn
surprised that-
kind of a whitish.
Yeah.
They go from green to whitish, and then they start to turn pinker, and then they turn blue. They're still not ripe yet.
So how do you tell if they're ripe? Because I would just be
Well,
like, oh, they're ripe.
When a blueberry first turns blue, it has high acidity and a low sugar content.
Okay.
And over the next 2 weeks, depends on the weather, but close to 2 weeks, the acidity drops, the sugar content increases, and towards the end of that period, they pick easy.
Oh.
They don't adhere to the stems as much, and when they get fully ripe, that's when the commercial pickers come in with the machines and shake the bushes, and the berries all drop onto conveyor belts and run through a sorter.
But you thought ahead and you were like, forget that. I'm just going to have people come and do it for me.
We call that the Tom Sawyer business plan. Get somebody else to paint the fence for you. So people really love to come out to the farm and do something. I mean, we get plenty of people who like to just sit at the picnic tables all day, but it's even more fun when they bring the whole family. I get kids here from 2 weeks old to 90 years old.
You know, I'm a big believer in if you get kids involved with their food and growing the ingredients or harvesting those ingredients, the kids have a better appreciation for those meals.
Yep.
And they can really, and so do the
Yep.
adults too. I
Yep.
mean, let's face it, we all
And
do.
it's better nutritionally too.
Is that what made you get into the business of berries?
Oh.
Is having healthy food?
It
Or
seemed like a good idea at the time. I wanted to have a farm. My wife wanted to have a business. We thought about a lot of different things and ran into a salesman who said, I can show you a bush that'll grow you a $10 bill every year. And we said, that sounds pretty good. Why isn't anybody else doing this? And this was back right after the University of Minnesota had released several new varieties. And we decided if we're going to try this out, we might as well jump in whole hog. So we planted an acre a year for 4 years.
John, is there a specific soil that grows really great blueberries?
Yep, and this is not it. They like a sandier soil, and they like an acidic pH.
Okay.
Ours is a very loamy clay soil with a relatively neutral pH, and we had to spread, 1.25 tons of sulfur per acre.
Wow.
prior to planting, like 9 months prior, because it takes a while to work into
Seep
the
in there.
soil.
Sure.
And then every year when we had our fertilizer, we mixed in some sulfur with the fertilizer and spread it up and down the rows. And that eventually acidified the soil enough that it's great blueberry soil now. As the neighboring farmer says, you'll never grow alfalfa there again. This is where we ended up, exhausted at the end of the road with something like 10,000 blueberry plants.
Wow.
So
That's amazing. And it's a beautiful, peaceful place to be.
yeah, the commute's great. You know, walk out the back door and you never have a shortage of things to do.
Well, I tell you what, as fascinating as it is finding out about blueberries out here, the sun is beating down on me and I'm scorching. And I saw Terry sitting in the shade. So I'm going to go grab some blueberries from her and a little bit of shade.
There you go. Sounds like an excellent idea.
Sitting here with a glass of water, cooling off, blueberries, I feel like I'm a little kid again back on the farmhouse.
And indeed you are. You and thousands of other children of all ages come to my backyard every summer, and they have a fun time. Moms and little ones and grandmas and every generation, and now 30 years later, who knew where 30 years went? But 30 years later, there's a whole other generation coming up, and there's a pile of kids that want to come and play on the tire swing. Some Saturdays, the picnic tables are all full. There's even people picnicking on the grass, and there's a lineup to get on the tire swing.
Oh, nice.
Children are swinging and swaying and have picked berries, and so we want everybody to come and enjoy. We're a family farm, fun in the summer. And, you know, that's where berry pickers come from. If you don't start them when they're little and let them get out there and eat all they want and, you know, wear it and own it, then they grow up and bring their next generation and the next and the next. And
For the folks that don't get to live on farms and do this all the time, it's nice to be able to come out and have a little slice of your life for the day.
It is, and it's their summer rite of passage. You know, it's like, oh, you mean I just, you know, I want to come. It's my thing to do in the summer, and it's really fun. It's great. It's nice to have so many people come. In the winter, it's pretty quiet here.
Yeah.
And no one comes. But in the summer, it's really great. There's folks here all the time, and I need that bit of socialization. And
Is that why you chose the U-Pick? Is that model instead of going to farmers markets?
you know, years ago, John and I lived in California, and we went there and we could go pick peaches and cherries and apricots by the 5-gallon bucket. And I kind of got the, wow, you can grow fruit. And then we moved back here and said, well, wow, we can grow blueberries, so let's grow blueberries. And that's kind of where it came from.
Don't you feel like there's something different if you go out there and harvest that food, whether it's the fruit or the vegetables from your garden?
Oh,
you
yeah.
think about it differently when you're cooking.
And it tastes so fresh.
much better. Yeah.
The fresh is great. So that's the good part.
So you guys are doing blueberries here, but there's all sorts of other things.
We do a few other things. We have currants and gooseberries at the beginning of our season in early July. So gooseberries are a thorny, darling little thing that are dangerous to pick, but nice and delicious. People make jams and jellies. And then we have red currants and black currants, and a lot of different ethnic varietal people come out for red currants. The Scandinavians love the red currants, and the Russians love the black currants, and they make jams and jellies and wine and tea sweetener, and some people like the leaves for things, and you never know, you learn a lot.
You never know.
But, you know, they bring you their jar of this or their recipe for that.
No kidding.
Oh, it's fab.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
it's
I
really
love that
nice.
connection with everybody. And I suppose a lot of people, especially after they're coming from generation to every year for different generations, that this is their farm as well.
Oh, yeah. And then they like to bring along, you know, the expanse of people who comes gets even bigger, because then they bring their neighbor and their sister and their cousin, and the groups get larger and larger, and yeah, it's fun.
One of my favorite parts about farming is the community involved in farming and how farms can create community by bringing people in and making people feel a part.
Yeah, it's pretty swell. I mean, it's really sweet, you know, after a long day or a hard day or whatever, and somebody will say to you on the way out, thank you for doing this, you know, we really enjoy it. And that, it just means so much. You know, it keeps you going, keeps you smiling, and
Good.
It's a good thing.
Well, I'm going to go out and pick some berries, and then why don't you meet me in Eau Claire, Wisconsin to learn about the kids who are growing vegetables for themselves at their school. Hi, Erica.
Hi.
Boy, this is so nice to be able to finally come here and see the kids working in the school garden. I love the concept of this. So how did the school garden here get started?
Well, it was a conversation between myself as a parent and a teacher here. And we were just talking about how, oh, we should do it, we should do it, we should do it. And then we just decided, well, let's stop talking about it and let's just do it. And so, you know, and as a part of the Eau Claire Public School District, I think we really felt as a school it was something that to do, to say like, look, you can do it, you can do it. So, you know, and as soon as we sort of that the word, let's do it, then it just kind of happened from, you know, parents coming out of the woodwork to help, donors, everything. It just really came together nicely.
Well, this is such a nice thing to have because I think it's so important for kids to be able to get hands-on and learning how the food's being grown. And what are the other benefits to having these kids out here learning this way?
Oh, the benefits are just innumerable, really. Often the issue out here is there's not enough work to go around. There's not enough for the kids to do.
So they love being hands-on,
They love
participating.
being hands-on. That's all they want to do. And so I think that they really have to work together. It teaches them how to interact with one another and how, you know, one class comes out and they do a little work and they water, and then the next day somebody else comes out and they come out, you know, then the first kids come out again and they say, oh, look at, but that got done too. And so it's definitely a community effort.
I love it that the kids are so involved, and I love it that they're learning about this because this is our next generation. And I hope that with this next generation that they're growing a lot of their food. This is what they do, and that we can get rid of the word local food and just have food.
Yeah.
And this is just what people do.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best things. I mean, as a volunteer that I've seen, and I'm sure the other volunteers and the staff have seen it. But basically, you know, how it works is we plant everything in the spring. The kids go home. And, you know, there's some things that they see coming up right away, radishes and lettuce and stuff like that. And they do get to eat a little bit before they leave. And then we have, you know, a core of families that volunteer to take care of it during the summer. So some kids are seeing it over the summer, but then they come back in the fall and it's just huge and it's rich with produce. And we spend the fall harvesting, and then we have a big party. Foster Cheese House comes with their fire truck and they cook pizzas for the kids, and we have a really great festival and celebration of all of the work that's happened here. And so the kids in the spring now, you know, when they plant something, they say, oh, this is gonna be great in pizza. You know, so that's really
That's
cool.
a great reward to have at
right.
the end
Pizza
of the day.
is always the best, yeah.
I love seeing them out here also because I know, like with my nephews, for example, my brother's always like, they won't eat vegetables. But I feel like when they're out in the garden with me and they're harvesting those vegetables, they can't wait to get inside and cook them and eat them. And there's something about that pride or that ownership over that whole process, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, your kids eat a lot of vegetables.
They do, surprisingly. People always say, like, how do you get your kids to eat that? There's healthy peer pressure. I hate to say, you know, there really is. Like when they see their peers eating something that they've never tried before. And sometimes, you know, we hear a lot of, oh, I don't like it, but most often it's, oh, it's not bad. Like that's usually like radishes and kale. And one of the fun things that we did in the spring, we planted different types of lettuces. And then we had like a lettuce tasting party.
Oh,
so
fun.
we had the kids out and so we got to the arugula, you know, and they all put it in their mouth and like, oh, it's not. Oh,
It's so different.
yeah. So it really is fun. It's a fun thing to have them try new things.
Well, good. Well, I would love to harvest some things with the kids and spend some time with them, and then I'd like to have everyone back to my farm so they can see my garden and have some treats.
I'm sure they'd love that.
Okay, kids, you want to harvest some carrots with me? Well, now that I've got my carrots, I'm gonna head off to the kitchen and make some carrot sorbet. And do you guys wanna come out to the farm and see? Yeah? Eat carrot sorbet? Yeah! Okay, well, I'll see you guys there. I was lucky enough to have a school garden growing up. Of course, I was homeschooled, and we had a very large vegetable garden right outside the front door where I got to work alongside my parents and my grandparents, growing food, learning that it's my responsibility to make sure that everything's watered, and just having a sense of calm. And also, I picked up my passion for life right there in the garden. I love growing a garden now, and I think it's just lovely to see the communities and the teachers advocating for these kids to grow their own food. Now in the garden, the kids were telling me that their favorite vegetable is carrots. So I thought it'd be a nice fun treat to turn these beautiful carrots of theirs into a cool sorbet. So why don't we get started? The first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna add my carrots to the blender. So my carrots, I've already boiled them down a bit for about 7 minutes until they were tender. I popped them in the fridge for just a few minutes to chill down, and now they're ready to go. Always remember to use really good ingredients. I think that this sorbet is gonna taste extra lovely because these carrots just came out of the ground a little while ago. And with a sorbet, you want to make sure that you're using the freshest fruit or the freshest carrots. It just helps make everything taste a lot better. Next, I'm going to add a little bit of sugar. And then some citruses. I have some lemon juice and some lime juice. There we go. That'll be a nice little flavor enhancer, and a little bit of honey from the bees out in the field. I have tons of honey from the beehives that we have here at the farm, and I love to find ways to use it all up. Now I'm going to put in a little pinch of ginger too. I think ginger and carrot go really well together. And now I'll puree this up for a little bit. And I add a little bit of water to help the process. There we go, and I'll add the rest of the water. I'm adding 2 cups of water to our sorbet. I'm loving the color of the sorbet. And also, there's a lot of different varieties of carrots out there now, so you could do a purple carrot sorbet even and just knock the socks off of all your guests. I'll just pour the sorbet right into my glass dish here. So I'm just gonna pop this in the freezer for about an hour, and then it's gonna go into my sorbet machine, and we'll have wonderful carrot sorbet. I'm gonna get this cleaned up because I have an equally delicious plan for the blueberries. Let's make some blueberry and yogurt popsicles. I like the idea of a you-pick farm. I think it's a great way to get people from urban communities out into nature, out into the country, and see what's happening on the farm. There's something really incredible when you're able to pick your own food and then go and eat it right, or just eat it right there standing when you're picking it off the bush. It's a great thing, and I'd love to hear the stories from Terry when she was telling me how she's seen the families and all the different generations of the families. So she says she's gotten to see kids grow up, have their own kids, and now they're bringing their grandkids, and what a wonderful thing to experience. And I love it that these folks have a connection with their farm, and they feel it's a part of their family's summer history. I thought it would be nice to turn these blueberries, since they're at their peak freshness, into blueberry and yogurt popsicles. I know a lot of these moms don't want their kids to have a ton of sugar or a ton of, sugary popsicle-y things, so I decided to make them homemade using yogurt, blueberries, and honey. Very simple recipe, but when you have great ingredients, you can do things very simply. The first thing I'm gonna add, of course, is blueberries. It's 2 cups of blueberries. You can either use them fresh, or if you pick them in the summertime and you want to make this recipe in the wintertime, you can use frozen blueberries too. Just make sure they're thawed out first. So 2 cups of blueberries goes into my blender. I know these blueberries are going to make excellent popsicles because the color is just going to be amazing. We have the blueberries and then a little bit of honey just to sweeten things up. And then 2 cups of vanilla yogurt goes right in all together. This is gonna help add a nice creaminess to these popsicles. And if you're on a dairy farm, it'd be a shame for you not to have a little bit of dairy when you're out running around. Now, I'll simply puree all this up. And that looks good. I just love the blueberry color. Since I love the color so much, I wanna make it stand out. So, to my popsicle molds, I'm gonna add a little bit of that vanilla yogurt to the bottom of my molds here, so that way they're a 2-tone when they come out of the freezer. Alrighty, and now on top of that, I'm gonna add my blueberries. And you don't wanna fill them too full because they're gonna expand when they start to freeze. And also, if the kids have too much of these blueberries. Their little faces are going to be dyed purple for the rest of their way home. Okay, now I'll just put the top on. And then I'm going to add my sticks to my molds, pop them in the freezer until they set. If you got 24 hours, you should leave them in for 24 hours. And I think these are going to be a perfect treat for the kids today. I'll see you outside. Kids and summer afternoons, perfect for healthy, homemade blueberry yogurt popsicles. This is one way to get the kids to eat their veggies. Icy carrot sorbet.
Well, I hope this has inspired you to rethink the way you eat your fruits and veggies. And I hope you'll gather with us next time around the farm table. I'm your host, Inga Witcher.
Around the Farm Table is funded in part by Wisconsin Farmers Union, Heartland Credit Union, and Friends of Wisconsin Public Television.